What's up, YouTube? It's Carolina Calvin coming back to you with another video, and I have Mitch here, and we're gonna do the spoiler review. I said I was gonna get this out Sunday. Couldn't get a hold of MG, so maybe later, me and MG will talk about it. We'll talk about a bunch of different stuff in a different video, and we'll bring up this movie. But what I want to talk about with Mitch is the spoilers, Easter eggs, and kind of give his thoughts on what he thinks about the movie. And I want to kind of go more into detail about my thoughts, because I felt as though I left a few things out just because I didn't want to, if I would have said exactly how I felt, it would have gave away spoilers, it would have gave away specific scenes. Now, Mitch, you can jump in whenever if I leave out something from the story. I'm not going to go scene by scene, but I'm kind of break down basically how the story went. Now, I watched this Friday night. Captain Marvel was it the 21st movie? Is it 21st? 20?
I believe so.
It's the 21st movie. Okay. It's the 21st movie, and it's the story of Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel, and they kind of went with the amnesia story. As you started out, and I think it started out good. You saw the Kree homeworld, which is some really nice visuals. I think they honestly, I would have liked to see more of that, but of course, most of the movie took place on Earth. But it started out. What's the actor's name? He plays the Kree. He plays the Kree that trained her. I don't remember the actor. Jude Law, is that his name? I think that's his name. Yeah.
Yep.
So he was essentially training her. You saw at the beginning, they were talking about emotions and all this other crap, and it talked about her as being with that Kree team. And by the way, the team was called Star Force, I believe. They did a really poor job of really selling that entire team. They had the parts at the beginning of the movie where they went to a distant planet and whatnot, and they were looking for scrolls. That's really all the connection you got with them, which I think it could have been something they could have went to, because she's been there 6 years. It could have been something they could have went to at some point later in the movie, but I think they dropped the ball on it. Really having her kind of connect with that team. Most people, you'd have to look up on IMDb what those characters' names are, or be a super knowledgeable about just her and those characters, which I'm not even, because I ain't reading no Captain Marvel comic. But it goes from there. From the amnesia story, and I'm gonna be jumping around where she gets captured. The mission I'm talking about, when they are going after the scrolls, she gets captured, and they're pretty much digging into her memories. This is when it really starts to go into the amnesia thing. And the scrolls are essentially trying to find a device, which is a device that allows them to go at light speed. We'll get more on that. What actually powers the thing, which is the Tesseract, which, this is spoilers, so I can talk about it. The Tesseract is what powers it. And I probably have to watch some of the movies to see, what is this character doing with the Tesseract?
There is so many plot holes in this movie.
What is she doing with the Tesseract? When I saw it, I was like, okay.
Last time, if we're going by chronological order, the Tesseract would have been in the ocean, right?
Yeah, I guess she went and found it or something. But you trying to tell me that the shield, or the precursor to the shield, never went down there to look for it?
I guess she found it and they didn't find it, because that's the only way she would have it, because otherwise...
How long was she on Earth? Did they ever say? Did they ever say how long she was on Earth? I mean, we know she was there in the 90s and probably a little bit before that, but they never say how long on. So we assume it got trapped in the ocean, and she went and found it. Because of course, they later near that same location, that's where they find Cap frozen in ice. So I guess they never even went to go look for or try to recover his body. Then, that's more than likely a problem with the other movies. But you really start to question what the Tesseract is doing there. But whatever, that's fine. It's there. But that's essentially the thing that she uses to create the faster than light engine, and that's what both the Kree, the Kree's looking for. I'm getting some kind of how I feel about the Skrulls. I was very vague in my non-spoiler review about the Skrulls themselves, but as they're still going with the amnesia thing, she gets into a fight on the Skrull ship after they try to probe her mind, try to get information on where this engine's at. She has specific coordinates of where it's at. She breaks free, and you get your action scene. And she never got. And I know Mitch brought this up, but throughout this movie, she never really got hurt. She never, you see all these other characters, they're getting hurt at points in their movie. She never really got hurt in her movie. Most thing that happened to her that was bad was really the whole amnesia thing, her trying to get her memories back. And she didn't do a great job of really selling that, nor did she do a great job of selling once she got her memories back. Really selling emotions when the plot needed her to sell a specific emotion. And she didn't do a good job of doing that.
I understand she's a strong character, but you need to at least have some sort of pain in the movie, some sort of consequence in the movie, like something to get me motivated to like this character. This character is just going to keep going out there and destroying everybody. I said to you before we got on here, I think she, in one single superhero movie, is the strongest character we've ever seen in a superhero movie. Because basically, before she gets her full powers, basically they restricted her from getting her full powers with that little chip on her neck. Mm-hmm. And the whole story to me was basically these people were holding you back. They're holding you back, which I think there's a little bit of a backstory to that. They're holding you back. And then she gets her other arm, and then she gets her full powers, and she's never threatened at all again. Even when she has one arm, they're not really building on the fact that she's held back with one arm. She's still kicking everybody's ass with one arm.
Basically, like I said, she never got hurt in the movie. And you look at all the other superhero movies. There were times, even for the origin stories, there were times where they got beat down. Even in likes of your Thor, Hulk. I guess can we count the Incredible Hulk from 2008, even though it's a completely different thing with Universal.
Even the Hulk.
Yeah. Thor.
Even Thor.
Doctor Strange. Black
Bro,
Panther.
Spider-Man had no suit on at the end of his origin movie.
Yeah, and Black Panther almost died. He almost died in his movie.
Even Superman.
Yeah. Look at Batman and Superman. He died. Look at Man of Steel. He had to fight three. He essentially had to fight 3 Kryptonians in that movie. But that's one thing people don't like. And she's pretty powerful in the comic, but it's not a comic book. If you're gonna weaken all those other characters like Thor, like your Hulk, like your Doctor Strange, who are powerful characters in the comics, what's the deal with her?
Also, you brought up the fact of a comic book. I think something that really went over well in the new Spider-Man animated film is just the fact that it looks like a comic book. Mm-hmm. There was sort of that aspect to some of these films in superhero, the genre of superhero films. There's some that kind of go with that approach where it's kind of looking like a comic book. It kind of leaps off the page like that. The visuals are really colorful and nice. And in this movie, I feel like this was visual-wise, this was the darkest MCU movie. It was really blue. There was not a lot of visual just colors. And this is a Captain Marvel movie. Like, look at her suit. Like, shouldn't it be a little bit more resembling what the character is about in terms of the visuals? It just seemed really dull, really dark with the visuals, and there was no, like, direction on where they wanted to go with it. It was just like, I don't know.
It lacked a certain style. Like,
yeah, there was no flair. There was no style to the film. It just felt normal.
Like, and you have to, like, watch the movies to see what, like, the movies have to, because they all have a formula with the superhero movies that, you know, they've kind of been doing. But you see a style with different movies that kind of
with the director
kind of separates it from a different movie. You know, like, you'll see, you know, you watch your Iron Man and you watch your Doctor Strange, similar characters, but you know, the style, like, you know, one's using magic, one's attack, and one stuff like that. Thor,
Guardians,
Captain America. Like, look at Winter Soldier. That was like a spy espionage type movie. It had its own style. It's not. There aren't really like those movies in there. You know, you're gonna get it with Black Widow, but you know, it had a different style. And one thing, I didn't really care for the Force '90s thing. You know, the Blockbuster and the Radio Shack, and you saw like Nintendo Game Boy.
They didn't. I think they went halfway in on it. They didn't embrace it enough. I think that was the problem. The soundtrack, I think, there's some good songs in there.
They were like
misplaced, poorly edited in terms of like the voice and the song. Like, sometimes you rather put the emphasis on the song in the background, like you'll see in Guardians, or you put the emphasis on the voice. Like, there was one scene near the end of the movie where it's kind of like middle on both, and it's like it makes both ineffective. Like, they're trying to make jokes, but it's not funny, so it doesn't really work. And then the music's in the background, and the music choice is really obvious, by the way. What was the song again? It was like,
I don't remember. So it's a known song, but like some of it I just completely forgot. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Some of it I completely forgot. You know,
Calvin, I'm looking at this poster right now. Like, look at the poster. Where was that visual for the movie? Like, look, it like leaps off the page. It's not a bad poster. It's like very colorful. It's red and blue, gold. Like, where is this? Like, you brought it up. Like, every movie in this MCU has a certain tone, but also has a certain visual flair to it. Like, you can go from every movie without really even seeing the character in it and go like, okay, this looks like a Captain America movie. This looks like a Thor movie. This looks like an Iron Man movie. This looks like an Avengers movie. Guardians, so on and so forth. Like, every single movie has a certain, like, different feel to it, even though it's within the same universe, even though it uses the same cookie cutter plot to a certain degree. It still has that flair and style that separates it for each character. And to me, that was really missing from this movie. Like, there was no originality to the movie, in my opinion. It was very cookie cutter. It was a bunch of superhero things that we've seen before in other movies put together into one movie. It just didn't offer me anything unique at all.
And I think like it's better than movies like Thor, Dark World, you know, some of the like Incredible Hulk, some of these lower tier. It's better than those movies, as just that, you know, what they did worked, but those movies didn't really work. So it gets that, but the amount of people who are touting this as, oh, this is the greatest Marvel movie. I mean, it's just your opinion, but I don't know how you come out watching that movie and then going and watching something like Civil War or Infinity War, Winter Soldier, and saying it's better than something like that.
It's my least favorite. It's my least favorite MCU movie.
Yeah.
Like, it might not be the worst, but it's my least favorite because it just, like, offers nothing to me. Like, I'll go back and watch Thor Dark World, maybe for certain aspects of it. Like, I like the combination of Loki and Thor. Like, I think that's very fun. They do something with it that's, like, interesting. It doesn't really work all the time, but at least they're going for something. Like, in Captain Marvel, I don't think I'm ever going to want to watch this movie again because there's no real redeeming qualities to it that really want to make me watch it. Like, It's not. It just no aspect of the movie really stands out.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that they really had that they could really say, okay, well, this is something we can do in the future, which is still possible, but I think it's been ruined. That was the Skrull Kree thing. 'Cause I like the Kree as and the Skrulls as characters, like in terms of the races, especially in the books. You know, Secret Invasion was a great storyline, at least in my opinion, and they were trying to go with something like that, but then they're just like, oh, well, it was kind of there just to push her story, you know, because they were essentially trying to do that. Then they were doing the Amnesia story, and then they were trying to fit all of that as okay, this is how the Avengers Initiative, I guess, got influenced and making this connection to all these movies. There was a lot going on, and a lot of people don't see that. And you really think about it, there's a lot going on in the movie. Honestly,
the Amnesia thing was kind of cool at first, even though I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And then, like, you start to pick it up, and then they just completely drop it.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. Because
you take
I brought this up before to you before we got on here. It's just like with this movie, we could go through every main aspect of a Marvel film in terms of action scenes, comedy, main character, visuals, villain, etc., soundtrack. This film ranks the worst or in the bottom of every one of those categories. That is why I don't understand people that are saying this is like a great movie or this is like maybe they feel different from me. It's their opinion, but like personally, I don't know how you can rank Brie Larson in the top of main actors. I don't know how you can rank this soundtrack anywhere near the top. I don't know how you can rank these action scenes near the top. These action scenes look like they came from a 90s superhero movie.
I think that was what they were going with, weren't they?
I guess.
That's what they were going with.
I guess they were. Batman Forever. And what else?
The CG.
Like the comedy.
The comedy.
Okay, the CG. I'll give the CG. The CG was nice. Especially the de-aging thing.
Oh, that to
really
me
good.
That was real. That is one thing. Like, I'll give it a lot of credit for the de-aging thing with Samuel Jackson, Nick Fury, even with Coulson. That was like Coulson's not in the movie that much, so it's really hard to really put a finger on like how good. I guess he was good in the parts he was at, but the CG for Samuel Jackson especially, leave out all the like her using her abilities. I mean, that was good and it was okay. But the de-aging thing I think was the biggest one because it got to a point where it started to blend, and you didn't even really notice it was CG because it was done so well. So I'll give him credit for how that looked, how the Kree homeworld looked. That looked good. Like some of the, like the ships and stuff. I think where there are parts near the end, it doesn't look as bad as Black Panther in this third act.
Oh no, it looks really good.
Yeah,
for the most part.
There was some parts like during the third act during the fight where you kind of see it kind of look like plasticky and shit like that. But for the most part, throughout the movie, I think that was the best aspect of the movie was the CG. But
from a personality standpoint, like without Samuel L. in this movie, I feel like there's no personality. This movie is completely like
she's one of the characters, like she got carried by her supporting characters, like the supporting characters, even the little girl, her best friend, Samuel Jackson, Jude Law's character. They all tried to invoke different emotions from her, especially her best friend. It was kind of like the emotion of sad when she remembered who she that was her best friend. And one thing, her friend didn't seem as distraught as I think she should have been. Like, and
they didn't spend enough time on it. That's why.
You think you saw your friend who, you thought that she was dead for 6 years. You see her and you're like, well, I mean, she does invoke some kind of emotion as she's talking to him, and Brie Larson totally no sells it. She totally no sells and kind of ruins the scene where you're supposed to have. It's supposed to be a sad moment, or when the little girl's showing her pictures as she's getting her memories back. That would have been the time to kind of like she get like.
I thought
gets,
something
like,
was
sad.
gonna happen there. Like that was a great idea, but like what happened? Like they didn't execute it.
She still had the same stone face. And this is when she was getting her memories back. So you expected some kind of emotion to come out of it as the memories rush back into her head. Nope. You got none of it. Like the supporting characters like tried their best to like when it was Brie Larson alone as Captain Marvel, garbage. Like I said that in my
and this is an aspect of the MCU that we love. We've loved their choices for the characters.
Because you think about just about any one of the main characters for their movies. Maybe aside from like, I mean, you could probably point out like the Incredible Hulk. That was a totally different actor. That's a totally different thing. Whatever. The other movies, Thor, charisma. Iron Man definitely has charisma. Oozes charisma.
This is the thing. Like even in the first phase where the movies weren't perfect, we saw that main character totally took it. Like they stole the show. They were the main part of the show. They nailed the character aspect of it. In this movie, it's like the main character is totally just not even near the best part of the movie. It's part of the MCU, which I don't understand how MCU fans can sit there and be like, they enjoyed this movie, even though the biggest part of the movies that they've enjoyed have been the characters involved, and this movie didn't have that part of it.
Because this movie still suffers from like your origin story villain. It suffers from that. But how those like your Iron Man 1, your Thor 1 with well, they have Loki, so I mean, I guess it did all right. But how those movies, you know, how we looked at it, was like, but these characters are cool. Like they look at like Iron Man, charisma, Thor, charisma, even Cap. And he definitely doesn't have a lot of charisma, but Chris Evans does a great job with the character. You can tell he's really into that role. You know, you think about just about every Quinn in the Guardians, all the characters in Guardians have personality, and despite having the villain problem, we love the characters. We're like, okay, you know, maybe as it goes on, they can do better once they've established these characters. We like these characters.
Yeah.
And that's how some of those movies have been able to get away with the villain problem. But this one had the villain problem, and you had the hero problem.
That's how the universe was built.
Yeah, and where she was essentially there just to see all the cool stuff with her powers. She was essentially there to see all the cool stuff with her powers. You know, especially as she got more powerful at the end of the movie.
The sad part to me is that she is the main focus of the movie. Like, obviously it's about Captain Marvel, but I don't know if there's any scene without her in it.
You probably got some brief, very brief, like when they were in there was on the autopsy table and stuff like that.
Yeah, for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, and so you notice how there was like the scrolls were like they come off as like pretty evil, and then you just do a complete 180. They could do a complete 180 and make them sympathetic characters. It was so bad. It was so bad. To kind of get back into what was happening in the story, let's see if I can remember. Of course, she escapes the scroll ship. She lands on Earth. She lands in Blockbuster. That was a big thing you saw in the trailer. To kind of, you know, they went with the whole that's like, oh look, we're in the 90s. You know, that's essentially what that was wanted to achieve. Then, not too long after that, that's when you first see Nick Fury, and she says a few things to Nick Fury, Then you see a Scrolls trying to kill her, and that's when you kind of get your chase scene, you get your train fight, which, I mean, it's okay. I mean, I guess
Probably like the 10th best train fight in a superhero movie.
definitely not Spider-Man 2 train fight. Let me tell you something. Definitely ain't close to that. But you had the train fight. I'm not going blank a little bit.
Was it even a fight?
I guess
She
a
punched
little.
an old lady in the face.
Yeah, and then probably the funniest thing about that, of course, you saw Stan Lee, rest in peace.
I want to say the Stan Lee tribute was very good.
Yeah, honestly, they should have saved it for Endgame
Yeah, they probably
because
should.
you were talking about a culmination of since 2008.
They might
all
do it
those
again.
characters. Yeah, but
Might do it again.
yeah, because he is gonna be in Endgame, right? He did do one last cameo before he died for Endgame.
Possible.
I believe he did. So it'd be good to see him. This is gonna be the last movie that you're gonna see a cameo of him. But after that, they so you do. This is the first time you also see Coulson. This is also the first time you see Coulson, and Nick Fury's kind of following him in his car. He finds out that that's not really Coulson in the car with him, is one of the Skrulls, and he literally crashes his car, gets it killed. Then that's when they kind of go to the autopsy table, and Captain Marvel. Ooh, I'm drawing a blank right now. What exactly happened? Because I wanted to catch it really close. What exactly happened after the train scene? It's really.
Oh, jeez. Do I even remember? I just remember them going to that place and trying to find
Yeah, I remember going to
information.
They went to the base because this is because before that she goes to like the library or whatever to try to get information. Or was that before then? No,
That was after the train fight.
Yeah, that was after the train fight. She tried to go get information. Then she went to a bar. This is kind of went back to like her amnesia thing. See how they're kind of jumping around with the different things.
Yeah, okay. The bar scene was not a bad scene. I enjoyed that scene because it at least gave us some sort of who's this character? What's she about? What's her personality? And of course Samuel L. Jackson shines, but I mean, that was one of the only scenes where we actually got to see what she's about. There's rarely a movie I go to and I watch where beginning to end I still have no idea who Captain Marvel is or is about.
Yeah.
Like, I spent a whole 2 hours with this character and I still really don't know what she's about.
So they went to the bar. That's when Nick Fury kind of approached her again because he found out she was, that's what she was gonna end up being because it was something in her memory. They then she tells him about I believe it's when she tells him about the faster than light engine or whatever. I think isn't that when she kind of like brings it up?
I believe so.
And they go to they talk about the doctor. This is before we found out that it was Marvel. And why was Marvel a woman? Hold on.
Because it's a Captain Marvel movie.
But
I don't.
It's. Go ahead. I got a call real quick.
Yeah, I just think because it's a Captain Marvel movie, man. That's why he is a woman. Just going forward, I know we're going to talk about this. She is going to be a very interesting character for the MCU because I have so many questions on not only how they're going to handle her in the upcoming movie, but how they are going to handle her going forward. Is she going to be a main part of this universe? Because if she's going to be, she's going to have to be in a lot better movie, and she's going to have to prove herself to be a little bit more of a personality. A little bit more charisma is the word that Calvin keeps using. I just think, like, she lacks any... Again, going back to the whole thing, I just feel like the main characters in every MCU movie they nail them every single time, and this one is the one movie where they just don't nail it. And from beginning to end, I'm sitting there, and I think part of it was the comedy aspect of it. I just think the comedy aspect of this movie, almost every joke fell flat. Like, I feel like a couple of them hit. I think the one where the loading screen I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah,
and
because
then,
that kind of went back to like a '90s thing, where it was like, oh,
yeah, like it was a '90s
computers
joke.
were slow back then. Yeah,
Yeah, it
AOL
was a
dial-up
90s
stuff like that. That was solid.
That was solid. And then they had one with the cat, which one guy just completely freaked out laughing. So I ended up laughing because the guy was laughing, because his laugh was ridiculous. So there was a couple of scenes of comedy, but I think that was one of the big parts of this movie that just completely fell flat, and that's part of the reason maybe why we didn't feel a connection to this character, and we didn't really feel like this character had any charisma.
And to kind of after the bar, because that's when they were looking for the doctor, they go to the military facility to get more information on what they essentially was looking for. And that's when it kind of it goes more into her backstory. I mean, into her like that 6-year time frame of what happened before she went to the Kree, and we find out that the doctor, I can't remember the name right now, was actually a Kree, Marvel, which was stupid, but was actually a Kree, and they wanted to test this engine. Now, she didn't give her all the information on it, so she was the one who decided to go on this test flight, and that's when the Kree attacked them. And come to find out, it was Jude Law's character who was the one who attacked her and pretty much killed Marvel and pretty much wrecked the ship. They wanted to recover the engine, and Carol destroyed it, and the energy from that was absorbed into her body. So can we essentially say she has the power of an Infinity Stone in the MCU?
She does.
Okay.
She is an Infinity Stone.
She has the
basically
power of the Space Stone. But she shoots the engine, it blows up, and all the energy from the explosion somehow gets onto her. Typical comic crap. We don't know how she survived, but whatever. It's a comic. Things happen. Bruce Banner survived deadly amounts of radiation, turn to hope. Whatever. That's fine. But that was kind of like, it was showing that, okay, these people who she thought were like her friends, her allies for 6 years, they were actually the ones who did all those things to her, and was a big reason why her memories were fragmented like that. So I mean, I didn't think that was too bad, because we knew that and they tried to make it some big twist, like we knew he was gonna be the villain.
Yeah.
Like they tried to make it seem like some kind of revelation. Like, we knew that Jude Law's character was gonna be the villain. We knew that, and I mean, like I said, it works just because it at least shows people a little bit more about her without her having to say anything about like where her powers come from. How can she shoot energy blasts out of her hands, and then of course we'll explain why she can do stuff in that third act that you saw her doing, flying around. Even at the end of the movie, she apparently can move faster than light. But
yeah, stronger than Superman, bro. I'm trying to tell you.
But at the the military bases, like I said, I'm just jumping around different scenes. The military base, that's when you get some, like, on the car ride there, you get some really good interactions between her and Samuel Jackson. She's still dry, but I think he really carries her in those scenes. And she's trying to be like this dry, sarcastic type character, especially at those points in the movies. It don't work.
None of it works for me.
It doesn't really work for her. But
she also just doesn't look like a superhero. I'm sorry. I know this is like,
I wouldn't say
kind
that,
of
but I think
like
I think she's horribly miscast as just because you see her like Brie Larson herself. You see her in interviews, and like she lacks charisma in her interviews. Like you can still see she's pretty, she's pretty dry. She's pretty even
she
pretty
looks
stoic.
like
She
I
doesn't
don't
have the
know.
charisma in her interviews that you'll see like somebody like Robert Downey talk. And yeah, the dude does some weird stuff. He's at like the park doing yoga and crap like that.
Yeah, he's a crazy dude.
But you see him in interviews, and you see the
He's
charisma.
vibrant.
You see the charisma of. And look, let's use a movie that people keep constantly comparing it to, Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot. When you see her do all this press stuff, you see the charisma. You
And
see the
she
charisma.
you could she is Wonder Woman in the movie, man.
Yeah, you can tell she like really got into the character. And I'm not.
Brie Larson looks like she's playing dress up.
Yeah, and I wonder how much it has to do with them writing her like that and her delivery. But you definitely got to put some blame on her delivery. Delivery of a lot of it in the movie is not great.
Even the end credit scene, like, where's Fury?
And I'm
Is that her angry voice?
I guess.
And I don't hate Brie Larson. I barely even really. I don't know. Have I seen any of her films? I knew who she was, but like, I haven't. I have no attachment to her at all. Like, people are gonna say probably I hate her or something. I don't hate her at all. She just wasn't good. I don't know what to tell you.
I'll be honest. I personally don't care for her. Just but I don't hate her as much as like you got some people who's like really hate her. I'd say I dislike her, just because she's one of those types. I'll just leave it at that. But her as this Captain Marvel character, it's just like, I mean, it resembled a lot of the comics.
In this movie, like the way she took out everybody, I think she's just gonna go up to Thanos, flick him, and then it's gonna be over.
They do that. It's curtains for the MCU.
I think it's gonna be finger poke of doom. She's just gonna.
I think the Russos are a lot smarter than that, unless they're their hands being forced. I think they're a lot smarter than to do some crap like that when you would take a dump on characters that's been there for 11 years.
I think Iron Man, the whole Avengers, Iron Man, Cap, Hulk, all of Thor, all of them are gonna take a shot at Thanos. They're all gonna fail. And then you're going to see Captain Marvel just stroll up there and just poke Thanos, and it's going to be over.
Yeah, they better not do that. But
like, the power level of her is so... Like, it's even way more ridiculous than Thor.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Thor took the brunt of a sun. He took the brunt of a sun. Then he came back. He almost won. If he'd have went for the head, he would have won.
If he would have went for the head.
We wouldn't have End Game. We wouldn't have End Game if he went for the head.
Yeah.
The key from I don't want to go through every single scene. They eventually, after all that happens, they steal one of the ships and they go find her best friend from 6 years ago, and this one a lot of the the little girl sees her and she remembers her. And I'm not mad at the way she acted with that, because in her head, with everything being so fragmented, she didn't really know who they were. She knew that they were someone to her at some point, like in her life, but she couldn't put a finger on it. But as you got into it and her memory started to come back, it didn't really change from that. And I know I said this earlier. I'm saying it again. It didn't really change from that when should have shown more emotions, like, oh man, you're my best friend or whatever. Even her best friend didn't even. I thought it should have been a little bit more sadness, especially if you thought your friend was dead. The cat thing, I want to touch on this one real quick. The cat thing, I didn't really care. I mean, it's not actually a cat. It just looks like a human. It just looks like an Earth cat. It's just like some kind of squid thing. I think one of the scrolls said what it was, and that's why he was so afraid of it, because he knew what it was. But why did they make Nick Fury the cat guy?
Yeah,
There were
why did they
parts-
make Nick Fury a
he
pussy
was
in this
he was
movie?
very he was useless.
Yeah,
At least
why was he even there?
at least
And this isn't even Nick Fury, old Nick Fury. This is like Nick Fury in his prime.
yeah. And he seemed like super, like he was nicer. Um,
He was a
they,
different character.
they had him like when they were discussing things. They had him in there like washing dishes and doing all kinds of crap. Like, where is this? What is
He's
this?
he's the one of the top Shield agents at this point. Isn't he going to be a badass? Is he not tough?
Didn't seem that way.
He just gets his ass beat.
And the most he did was
Hold the cat.
he carried her in a lot of those dialogue scenes. But other than that, they made him look weaker. They tried their damnness to weaken the character.
What about the scratch in the eye, though?
Oh, you go back to Captain America: Winter Soldier, and I don't remember the line word for word, but he kind of talks about. He says, "The last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye." I remember this. Because I watched Winter Soldier so many times. Last time he trusted someone, he lost an eye. In this movie,
that doesn't even connect.
in this movie we find out that the cat scratched his eye out just for a crappy joke, a really bad joke. And he was like, "Oh, does it look okay?" And the Skrull was like shaking his head, no. I was like, "What? You're talking about something that?" Like, at least for the MCU, like in the comics, it's more hardcore. In the comics,
And that's
it was
a huge
grenade.
aspect of his character too.
Yeah, because it was the mystery of like, because in the comics it was a grenade that happened, but people wanted to see how is it different in the MCU because things are different in the MCU, and
that's fine.
We think it's like, oh, he got it in combat or something like that. We assumed it would be like in combat or maybe he was tortured or something like that. Nope, it was a stupid cat-like creature that scratched his eye out, and there was like no visible pain or whatever. It was so cheap and insulting that they did that just for a cheap joke for one of the more serious characters throughout the entire franchise. They used one of the big mysteries that people who don't follow the source material had and turned it into a cheap joke. Now, this happened like when this happened. I didn't bring this up in the non-spoiler video, just obviously because it's a big spoiler. But it crossed my mind: should I walk out? For real, it really crossed my mind. Like I don't walk out.
Bro,
I don't walk
what
out
got
of
me
movies,
was,
but,
especially at the end of this movie, which I thought was mediocre to bad. The Avenger.
Oh yeah,
If anything, the name should be named after Captain America. If anything,
his movie is called The First Avenger. His movie is called The First Avenger.
If you're gonna name it after any individual character, it should be named after him.
Captain America was the reason S.H.I.E.L.D. got created. He inspired S.H.I.E.L.D. Because he was there before they were even called that, precursor to it, and he inspired them. His sacrifice inspired them to become that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to tell me this character is the reason, the Avenger Initiative, and it wasn't the first Avenger who was Captain America? Like, the stuff that they did to rewrite things, and let's not say, well, yeah, they did, to rewrite things for this character was annoying. It's really annoying.
They really hurt my vision of what this character is about. MG is here.
Okay.
What up?
What's up, MG? Man, we've been talking for about like 40 minutes. Give us your thoughts on cause I know you just got back from seeing the movie. Give us your thoughts on the movie.
I mean, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either.
Okay.
I didn't like the pacing of the movie. It felt like it was really jumpy. Kind of jumped around all over the place.
They were trying to do so many different stories, like the amnesia crab, the scroll Creed thing.
They never spent time with anything really.
Especially your main protagonist.
Yeah. I will say I didn't have any issues with the acting from the actual actors themselves.
What about Brie Larson?
I didn't have an issue with her acting. I had more of an issue with the writing. Because I felt like, I mean, on top of it jumping all over the place, I felt like a lot of the dialogue that was written, it was just basic. It was just stood out.
Weak.
Yeah, that exactly. I think the script was really weak. Who directed this one?
Some people.
It
some people
could
that
have been
never
anybody.
I don't think the movies they've done. We don't know about. Like we don't know. They're very small time.
It could have been anyone, which is what we've been talking about. Like there's no independent flair to this movie.
There was
like
5 writers for this movie.
Yeah,
I think 5 writers.
Well,
the writing was not good. Nothing stood out, and like Mitchell said, there was no like creative stamp from any of from the writers when it came to the movie. That was probably my biggest issue with it. Was the jumping and the pace and the writing. I didn't have a problem with any of the actors themselves.
To me, my biggest problem, you pointed out before you got here, was Brie Larson. Especially, it's mostly when she has to convey an emotion, like when her friend, and she gets like Brie Larson, Captain Marvel starts to get like her memories back. And you expect to see some kind of emotion when she's interacting with her friend. She's looking at all the pictures. You don't see that, you know. You don't really see any emotion from her. That I think was the low on her in terms of. I think it ruined her overall, like people's overall perception of her throughout the movie, because it was stoic at the beginning, which you understand because her memories are screwed up. She's been pretty much indoctrinated by the Kree. You understand at the beginning, but once you get to later parts of it, you expect to see some kind of range of emotions. You don't get that, even when the story demanded it.
Well, I think that a lot of that's because they were jumping around so much. Like even when they were looking at the pictures, remember, you couldn't even get to that moment because they just start showing all the pictures, and the next thing you know, there's a knock on the door and the Skrulls show up.
Yeah, they didn't give it time to kind of settle either. Yeah.
Yeah, so I get why some people might have an issue with Brie Larson, or her acting. That is, it didn't bother me though.
MG, I just felt like with every other MCU movie, especially the origin films, they put such a focus on you liking the character, and this is one movie in Captain Marvel where they didn't nail that aspect of the movie. They didn't nail the main character, which is what has been the greatest part of this entire franchise.
Yeah, the focus of this movie was more so the bigger picture than the character.
Yeah, exactly. There it is. It was about things that it's about things that can happen in the future. Setting up. She was the precursor to the Avengers, which is garbage. Should have been Cap. Having the Tesseract in there. That's of course that's leading up to the grand thing. It's one of the Infinity Stones. The Kree Skrull thing, maybe that leads to Secret Invasion or whatever.
Well, I think the Tesseract was important because of how obviously her powers when she's around or near the Tesseract are going to be heightened, and I think that's going to be an important part of her fighting Thanos. I don't think they're just going to let her just walk in there with her powers as she is fight Thanos.
I think so, because she's the strongest superhero in one movie ever.
Well, I think it's going to be the Tesseract. Because they're going to have the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, I think
so I think her having the Tesseract with her, obviously her powers are going to be heightened, and I think that's how they're going to justify her being so strong in the fight with Thanos specifically. It's going to be because she has the Tesseract with her.
They cannot have her beat Thanos. It'd be the biggest mistake they've ever.
No, I don't think there'll be one individual who beats Thanos. Though.
It has to be. It's either gonna have to be one of the OG characters.
I think it should be Iron Man.
I don't think he'd do it himself either, though. I think it'd be more.
No, it's gonna be a group fight, but the last stomp is going to be
The last blow
Iron
has
Man.
to either be Thor or Iron Man.
Yeah, I would agree.
It has to be one of those two.
Yeah.
But I do think, like I said, I think that's how they kind of justify her getting the. That's going to be her power up, because you got to know that during that movie everybody's going to get some type of power up, right? Iron Man will have a new suit, Cap will have a new shield or some shit. Thor, he's got his axe already. You know, everybody's going to have some type of power up.
Raccoon will have multiple guns.
Yeah, new guns, right?
I put this theory out there for Calvin before we got on the review. I wonder what you think about this. So I've kind of seen, obviously there's going to be some sort of time travel in here. So I was thinking, if they have to get the Soul Stone, is somebody going to sacrifice themselves for the Soul Stone?
I don't know, because I've heard so many different theories about the Soul Stone.
Yeah, of course, like the theory that a lot of people have been talking about, the quantum realm theory and all that crap. But I want to ask him, what did you think about the Kree and the Skrulls? Because that was another aspect in the movie that kind of made it jump around a bit. What you think about those two?
It could have been his own separate entity.
It could there was a possibility of, because I don't.
There could have been a Kree Skrull war movie.
Exactly. I don't understand the point of even having the Skrulls there, other than to kind of having the fake villain. Because even in the trailers, we knew the Kree were gonna be the bad guys.
Yeah.
It wasn't a mystery, and they tried to make that twist where it's like, okay, oh, he was the one that killed Marvel. By the way, Marvel's a chick. Thanks.
Yeah, that part didn't bother me.
Like, he was the one who did that. And they just the way it was shot, they try to make it, oh, it's a big twist, like, you know, where it kind of his face is kind of blurred out, then it kind of focuses it in, like, oh, see, look,
yeah.
Like, we knew he was the villain, so that was not a big reveal. So you could have just literally had her like running from the Kree, and she just so happens to land back on Earth or whatever. Yeah, like the Skrulls, like I think they devalued the characters, because now, yeah, they could say, oh, there's like, they were like a small section of Skrulls who just wanted to pretty much get away from the war or whatever. But now I think they really devalued the characters. Well, those characters, because the whole thing with Secret Invasion was always about it was a war between the Skrulls and the Kree when the humans got caught in between.
Yep.
You know, where
I mean, they can still possibly do that.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I think just the way they portrayed them as like the sympathetic figure. No, they should be just as much of a villain as the Kree. They should be just as much of a villain as the Kree. And I think
I agree.
Like I said, there's a possibility they could do a movie like that in the future, but
yeah, that could have been its own. And honestly, that might have been a better option too. To do a Kree Skrull movie first and then do Captain Marvel.
There you go. But they wanted to get it out so fast to kind of put it before End Game, because she was going to be an important part of End Game.
Yeah,
I think
they did push it back once already, because remember it was they pushed it back to put out the first Black Panther movie. So
yeah. What was it? Can't remember what I was going to say. What'd you think about? Because I know me and Mitch kind of touched on. What did you think about like the team she was part of once? You know, this is the beginning of the movie when she was with the Kree. What did you think about like those characters? Well, outside of Jude Law's character, who I think was still underrepresented, even though he got the most screen time out of the Kree.
Well, you got Hyman Johnson, who we saw in Guardians, obviously, and his connection to Ronan, which you kind of got that little hint where he was about to snitch on everything, and Jude Law stopped him before he could tell Ronan where they were and shit earlier in the film. So, you kind of got the dots connected on those two. Everybody else was kind of. I wish there was more fighting with them though. Outside of, you had that one fight at the end, but
you didn't get much outside of that. And then I thought they should kind of made some connection to, like, I guess kind of build it up with that original team that she was with at the beginning, because outside of really that first scene where they,
I don't even know their names.
You have to go on IMDb to find out their names. Unless you just recently watched the movie. MD, do you remember any of their names?
Hell no.
Yeah, what's the point?
I don't even think she had a conversation with all of them.
Not with all of them. No, you had little moments like when they first left for their mission where they were, throwing some jabs back and forth here and there. And then you had the moment at the end where she was talking to old girl and she said, "Is this why we never hung out or some shit?" And she said, "Nah, I never liked you."
Yeah.
But that was really it.
Yeah. They showed those characters. They were no different than like fodder.
And I think there should have been a way bigger emotional attachment for Brie Larson to Jude Law in terms of their characters. Because they made it seem like they were an item.
Yeah, at the beginning, yeah. And you saw no connection.
Had no problem sending them away, like, bye.
Like, despite being with him for 6 years, she was like, oh, well, there wasn't. She just looked at him with a blank stare, like, and just like blasted him or whatever for what it looks like a cheap joke, almost.
It was a joke.
Yeah, but I thought he
put that on the writing though.
Yeah,
personally.
Yeah, in terms of how they handled Jude Law's character, yeah, it was pretty. The writing, which would mess that up. What you think?
They didn't really do anything to make her seem like she was like going through a real struggle. Like that's the thing with superhero movies. Like all the great ones. Mm-hmm. There's some type of real struggle. Like, I mean, for us, right, the greatest Spider-Man movies ever, that original trilogy, right, even though the third one wasn't that good, but Spider-Man was getting his ass kicked in the movies. Like,
he literally didn't have a suit on at the end.
Yeah. Like, they were fucking him up, right? Like, Iron Man, he always wins, obviously, but he be getting fucked up.
And in Avengers, he sacrifices himself, almost died.
Yeah. I think the only people that we've seen in these movies that haven't really got fucked up was
Cap. Captain Marvel.
Cap is really the only one who never really got like beat up that bad.
Winter Soldier. He almost died.
That's part of the movie. That separates those movies from me.
He like because he found out that he knew that was Bucky, so he didn't want to kill him. So he literally just stopped fighting him and got beat up.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't even get touched in the final scene. Like, the final fight scene, I don't even think she had one moment of, like, getting...
Yeah, she got hit with one blast, backed up a little bit, and then starts slashing everything to bits.
Like, that's why my theory is that she's just going to go up to Thanos and finger poke of doom, and it's going to be over.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
I've said before, but what you think, MG, about the Nick Fury and the loss of his eye?
Before MG goes, what this reminded me of was the Spider-Man with the Aunt May thing. It's like, oh, you're Spider-Man? Cool.
Basically, yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
But yeah, and this is
they foreshadowed the eye thing at the beginning with the car crash. Right.
Yeah. And it didn't happen. Yeah.
Now I'll say this: how it happened, it was funny.
Was it?
But it wasn't the right way to do it.
I don't know.
I thought it was funny because of the cat. The cat. Sam Jackson's interactions with the cat were hilarious to me.
I thought it was just the way they handled. I thought it was. Because I brought this up Winter Soldier, and he when he said, last time I trusted somebody, I lost my eye, or whatever. You expect that to be some kind of, he lost that in battle or whatever. For them to turn something like that we saw years ago into a cheap joke, I think ruined it for me. It shouldn't have
been the way they did it. I still think how it happened was funny, just in the moment.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. I think some of the moments were funny, but then at the same time, the way they've established this character, it just doesn't know justice.
That's what it is with basically a lot of the movie, where it's like, as an individual moment, not bad, but grand scheme of things, it's like, oh, come on.
There's so many issues with not only the characterization of these characters, but also the plot holes that this movie actually brings about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first Avenger one to me is a big one. Her being influenced for that. You trying to tell me it wasn't Cap? I find that unbelievable.
The Tesseract, for example, is another one.
Yeah, were we gonna get like how to get into that possession of Marvel or whatever? I mean, it was stuck in the ocean, so we can assume that she found it there.
I wouldn't really care as long as they just gave us an explanation.
It could be a short one.
For what? The Tesseract?
Yeah. And the people think about it, who would know? That's probably why they couldn't give an explanation.
Probably S.H.I.E.L.D.
Maybe they didn't even know. Because you think they'd let somebody get...
Didn't S.H.I.E.L.D. uncover it at the end of the first Cap movie? When he went into the ocean? Didn't they uncover that?
Yeah.
I thought they uncovered him in the Tesseract when they brought him off the ocean.
But I thought that wasn't until Winter Soldier, that was years later. So wait, how did he get back into the ocean?
Wait, Winter Soldier was when they...
My question is, why would S.H.I.E.L.D. not have it in their possession?
At the first Captain America, at the end, they woke him up.
And they found did they find a Space Stone with him?
I don't remember.
I think I want to say they found it with him because at some point, they were still doing experiments with it. I mean, Tony's dad was still experimenting with it, right? Because that was the same technology that ended up becoming part of how Tony was able to create the arc reactor.
Yeah. I see. Now you about to have me looking at. I'm about to look it up now. I'm about to look it up at the end because it's been a while since I watched the first Captain America movie, so I don't remember every detail. Especially
because they woke him up and he woke up in the room that looked like it was old school or whatever, and he busted out the building and ran outside, and he was in the middle of the streets of New York looking around. I remember that now. Yeah, and then the next movie, it started off with him in the gym with the punching bag or some shit. Mm-hmm. Like, so yeah, he had woke up. They had woke him up at the beginning. So I mean, as far as the first Avenger thing, I don't have a problem with Nick Fury, the name being inspired by Captain Marvel in terms of the Avenger name. But the way I looked at it was, if you remember, going back to Iron Man, Nick Fury had to have a reason to why he would think that, you know, there were aliens coming for the planet and why he needed to start to form the team in the first place. So something had to have happened in the past that made him realize that aliens were coming anyways to even want to.
Oh, that made sense. Like yeah, that made sense.
So I still think for the Avengers, Cap is still the first Avenger himself. I just think the name of Avenger was inspired by Captain Marvel.
I just don't know about that.
Which I mean, I can see why you wouldn't like it. So
I didn't see it in the ending where it showed the Tesseract. So I don't know.
I just feel it's so hard to connect.
What, at the end of a
character?
Yeah, because like we know Red Skull, like he got transported, and we found out what happened to him. But I don't know. Maybe it was a different scene. I have to watch the whole movie, but it's probably a different scene where we see it again. But I wanted to know. It'll kind of, I guess, shed light on how Marvel got a hand on it. Before
it had to be through S.H.I.E.L.D. because
it had to.
Fury
had to recover.
Fury had access to get into Pegasus.
Yeah, and she somehow stole it, and at some point between Cap 1 and
not stole it. She was working for the government.
Well, they let her use it. Yeah. Wow.
Which means that which probably tells me that Fury, because remember at that point in time, he said it in the movie, he was working a desk job. So at that point in time, Fury didn't have all the intel that he had or the clearance that he had either.
Yeah.
That you know, the Fury that we see now, who's the head of everything, he was just another operative, so he didn't have clearance and the knowledge of current Nick Fury in terms of knowing all of that stuff. So it would make sense as to how she was able to get her hands on it if she was working for Pegasus, you know, on the Pegasus project, and that's the S.H.I.E.L.D. thing.
He becomes director at the end of Captain Marvel, correct? Is that
I believe at the end of it was he? Yeah, but
that's when he was kind of writing out the Avengers Initiative and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so I think that's when he became director. What do you think about like the end credits scene or whatever.
With the cat?
No, not
The one where she showed up for
Yeah.
There's a little time skip there, so I wasn't like a big fan of that. Because you could tell, like, at that moment, like, that's got to be some ways into Infinity War. Like, everybody just got zapped and everybody's in a room together trying to figure shit out. Like, definitely wasn't right after the whole ending of Infinity.
It almost seemed like it was a scene in Endgame.
Yeah, basically that's what it seemed like. Like, there was some bit of a time skip from Infinity War to that point. Because Fury had already been gone. They had already connected the transmitter thing and had that up, and everybody had got together from Widow and Scarlet Witch. So obviously it was after they all mourned everybody's losses and shit.
What,
So,
what score would you give it? Yeah, in my video I gave it 6.5. I'm lowering it to. I'll still give it a 6. I'll still give it a 6. I think it's better than some of the movies like your Dark World, your Incredible Hulk, stuff like that. But is it this movie that people call it? You know, you see a lot of these. You look all through Twitter and people going crazy, heralding this the best MCU movie. Hell no. And they seem to do that with just about every movie that comes out. It's kind of like
yeah, I think they're a small section of the
prisoner of the moment type deal.
Yeah,
you get that.
They're a small section of the movie fan base. Because even if you think, I mean, even the critics, I mean, the people who review, whether it's positive or negative, they're even themselves are a small section of the people who go see movies.
Yeah.
79% on Rotten Tomatoes for a Marvel movie now is like, especially when most of them are like rigged. That's not very good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there was some shit going on with those sites like Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes.
I think they got bombed with good and bad reviews from both sides. So
yeah, like Rotten Tomatoes, they were. Man, dude, they deleted like 50,000 audience score. Like,
that's why I'd really try not to pay attention to that type of stuff, especially with movies. I kind of just I pay more attention to when you're at the theater and how people are reacting as they're watching the movie, and then kind of what you hear people saying as you're leaving the theater about it.
Yeah.
What were people saying?
It was kind of in the middle, right? Where I heard a lot of people saying that it was, that it wasn't bad, but they didn't love it, type of shit. And I didn't really see anybody in there walking out like, damn, that shit sucked, or anybody walking out saying, yeah, that was the greatest movie ever, So
I think it's just, I honestly think it might be social media plans who are really pushing.
I really think it's a social media thing because, like I said, I think the people who are reviewing it, they're a small section of society. They're a small section of these people who go see the movies. So it's kind of like, for example, Iron Man 3, right, where you see a lot of love for Iron Man 3 out there, but in person, you never hear people bring up Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Right? And it's kind of like, oh. Like, or even, it's the same with Black Panther. Yeah, you get people who bring up Black Panther, but that's a social media thing. Like, in person, nobody really talks about Black Panther like it's the best movie ever.
Nope. It's just a lot of people have, like, seen it.
Yeah, and social media... social media is why we call them the vocal minority, right? Mm-hmm. So, I think it's kind of, I think the box office means something to a degree, in the sense of it did have some people's interest more than what people were anticipating. Mm-hmm. But it also, on the other end, doesn't mean that it ended up being a good movie. People were just curious.
I mean, people, anyone who equates box office numbers to being like great movie, Transformers, those movies suck, and like 2 of them did over 1.1 billion. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think box office is more so a measurement of interest.
Yeah,
interest.
It's popular or not.
Yeah, of interest more so than quality.
Because you sell the tickets before you see the movie.
Yep. Yep. So you did whatever they did before, had people interested one way or the other, and whether it's because it fits into the MCU timeline of all the Infinity War stuff, or whether it's because of the character herself, or maybe they just like superhero movies in general. It had people's interest enough for them to do this well, box office wise. Because they're not just doing well box office, they're doing great box office wise. And if you're telling me all the people we meet in person, we didn't hear anybody saying, I can't wait to go see Captain Marvel, in person. So it tells me that there's been some interest sparked.
Everybody that I know that's going to see this movie said, I'm watching it because I'm watching Endgame. That's the biggest reason that people are watching this movie.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. So
I would give this movie a 6, probably.
But like I predicted too, was everybody was kind of down on it because of Brie Larson. And I said once people see the trailer, a lot of people's minds are going to be changed. Not everybody's, but visually it is going to be good. So I think that is going to draw some people in, and it's going to draw it's going to catch some people catch some people's eyes. So that helped with it as well. And then I didn't really see crazy marketing for it either, though. And that's the weird part, because everybody keeps saying, I feel like everybody's saying that it's being shoved down their throats, but I see a Captain Marvel commercial, maybe when I'm watching a game or something, but I don't see anything else on Captain Marvel.
You see a lot. It's a little bit on social media, different websites and stuff, but that's mostly weird. Not necessarily really on TV.
Yeah, I see it on on the news sites and stuff like that cover this type of thing. I see articles and stuff, but it's not being shoved. I haven't felt like it's been shoved down my throat more than other Marvel movies.
Yeah.
I felt like Black Panther and Iron Man have been shoved down my throats. Infinity War was shoved down my throat. Civil War definitely was. Spider-Man, no. It's kind of in that Spider-Man realm in terms of what I've seen from it, personally. It could be different on your end from what you've seen.
Spider-Man and Captain Marvel was more of a social media push.
Yeah. But I don't even really see it on my social media. It's almost non-existent on my social media outside of the people who are mad at it.
Set to Zimbabwe or some shit?
No, I don't. My shit is set on the U.S.
Okay.
The only people I see on my timeline are people who hate it. I don't see the people who are trying to big it up like that. Those tweets haven't come across my timeline.
You literally have to search that hashtag Captain Marvel tweet.
Yeah,
to see those people.
Yeah, I was about to say, because it hasn't, even people retweeting it, I haven't seen it. So, from my end, it's I don't feel like it's being shoved on me. I just, it's just another movie that came out. Shit, I forgot it came out this week.
What did you think? Did you think? We're not gonna be here too much longer. Did you think there was any feminist agenda in
it? Nothing more than any other leading female movie I've seen.
See, that's a damn shame, because
honestly,
it's a lot more than usual.
It's not any more than what was in Wonder Woman.
I think this is what I think. I think there was, but let's just take Wonder Woman for an example. Wonder Woman was done better. It was executed better in the way that they were pushing the agenda. In this film, it was more obvious. There was more hints of it, and it wasn't done as well. It wasn't just put out there in the writing.
And
even that moment at the end, right, where she got knocked down or whatever when she was fighting I can't remember what the fuck they called it. Right before she
on the motorbike
took the limiter off or whatever, and she got all the way up and shit and went full powered and shit. And they showed all the little moments of her in time when she was getting up, when she fell off the rope and when she fell off the bike and all of that other shit. I was like, okay, there's the moment right there. I see it, but they didn't really shove it down your throat. It was just, this person's getting up and they're about to go through some shit. But that was it. I don't see it.
The one time with the guy, Mitch was about to mention, we mentioned this earlier, was the guy on the bike, and they mentioned, are you going to smile? It seems like they threw that into the movie later after people complained about it in the first trailer. Yeah. That's what it seems like. And it's so obvious.
I feel like a big part of it, too, is the people who see it are people who were expecting it or looking for it. right? Because if you're not,
it.
it's kind of it's kind of like, you know, you know what they always say: if you go looking for something, if you go looking for dirt, you're gonna find it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that plays a part into it too. Like, it's like if I watch Carl Anthony Towns play basketball, right? And I'm looking, and like, he could be a great basketball player and everything, but my opinion of him, I think he's soft, right? So I'm looking for those moments where he's doing shit that I would consider to be soft, right, on the court. So it's kind of like, you know, your senses are heightened when you're expecting or looking for it.
Yep. I agree.
And I think that's what it is with it. You know, and you know, a lot of comments she's made in the past or what, all of that other stuff.
Just imagine if she never said none of that crap. Just imagine, overall, would the movie be looked at differently? If it was the exact same movie put out, and she never said none of the stuff she said,
I would think the same thing.
Well, yeah, as a movie, but you know, there are a lot of people who just don't like her for those comments.
Yeah, I think Mitchell, you probably went into it with a little bit of an open mind.
Yeah, I was wanting to like it, but I knew I didn't like the character, but I was hoping I would like it.
Yeah.
And I'm also going into an MCU movie always in a positive mindset because they've never
really
disappointed me. It's not like going into a DC movie where it's like, okay, this probably is going to suck. Like, you know what I mean?
So I think I think that plays a huge part in what you're seeing online. Because I mean, like I said, I wasn't going into it looking for the feminist stuff or caring about it, because then 9 times out of 10 they can push it in movies all they want, but none of that really matters. What really matters is what happens in real life. So you know, I just watched the movie for the sake of watching it, and you know, if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. You know, like.
Yeah. So what score are you giving the movie?
I think
Mitch, you said 6, correct?
6. I don't think I'd go any higher than a 6.5.
Yeah, I'm on a 6.
Any lower than a 5.
Yeah.
I go like 5.5.
Really? You went lower than we did?
So,
We've been crashing on the movie for over an hour.
Well, the reason I go 5.5 is because I gave Homecoming a 5. Which my reasoning for Homecoming was.
Why do we always have to bring this movie up?
The reason for Homecoming is because that ain't Spider-Man.
Yeah, but Spider-Man had more so to do with how they portrayed him, and I'm not really a big fan of the Captain Marvel character, anyways. Yeah. Even before this, so it's on a little bit of a. Yeah, so it's on a little bit of a different scale, but I can't say it's a 6 and then say Spider-Man
Homecoming was also more entertaining, though. Just like from an entertainment standpoint, without
entertainment, but that was always my thing on Spider-Man Homecoming too. It was from just a regular movie standpoint.
Yeah, it's fine.
Good movie.
Good.
But if you're a hardcore Spidey fan, you probably hate what they did to him and the characters around him. So
even
that's why I gave it a 5.
Okay, so we say you're going 5.5 on Captain
Yeah, so I'll go 5.5. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. There were a lot of issues with it, but I also saw a lot of good stuff that they did with the movie in terms of CG, and I actually think Brie Larson did a good job personally. Did she blow me away? Hell no. But did she bother me or annoy me? No. So
I don't think she was necessarily annoying. She was just, to me, she was.
I thought the writing was.
She was kind of bland. She was bland.
That's my word, bland.
She was bland to me. She wasn't like. She wasn't annoying. She was just bland. That's the only word I could really come to my mind.
It's kind of like I don't think the writing did her justice. It's kind of like if you look at season 1 and 2 of Luke Cage, right, and Mike Coulter. He came.
I liked him way more than.
Yeah, well, obviously he's better, but if you in comparison from season 1 to season 2 of Luke Cage, he was far more compelling in season 2. From a writing standpoint, it made a big difference because I felt like season 2 was written so beautifully. I felt like you seen it show on the screen because of the writing.
Trying to make me cry now.
Oh my god.
Yeah, now that it's gone now.
I still hold season 2 of Luke Cage in like super high regard. It's in my top 3 Netflix seasons. So, But yeah, so I think it's similar to that, where I think the writing, even if Brie Larson wasn't a great actress, I think the writing definitely didn't do anything to try to help enhance those doubts about her.
Yeah. But I think we're done with this video. You guys plug your stuff.
All right. You can subscribe to me on YouTube, The Bottom Line View, do NFL videos all the time, covering free agency right now. A lot of crazy stuff. Mr. Big Chest, Antonio Brown, just got traded, so that's pretty wild. And you can follow me on Twitter at Mitch Milani. Milani.
And you can find me on Twitter at Virtuoso Sports, talking sports. I know I count as laughing too. And then during the week, I'm on BlissSportsNetwork.com.
If y'all haven't already subscribed to me, please do that. I'm trying to put out more videos. You know, we're gonna do one for we're gonna try to see if we can get together and do one for Shazam when that comes out, which is not too far from now, a little bit over a month, I believe. But like this video. Peace. We're out.